Namaste, namaste everyone. Very warm welcome to Satsang today. Sadhguru Shri Muji Ji ki Jai. Before we start this long chapter 18, are there any burning questions that you would like to get answered because we might not have the time at the end of Satsang? No doubt, no but. Nothing after I am the self. Nothing after I am awareness. No I am awareness but. That's good. So we start with chapter 18, which is called Peace. Ashtavakra said, praise that which is bliss itself, which is by nature stillness and light, and which by its knowing reveals the world as a dream. Praise that which is bliss itself, which is by nature stillness and light, and which by its knowing reveals the world as a dream. So what is it that by its knowing will reveal the world as a dream? Have we had any such revelation which questions the tangibility, the permanence, the persistence of this world? What is a dream? A dream is a series of appearances that comes and goes. What is this? Reveals the world. What is this world? Can it also be a series of appearances which comes and goes? What revelation have we had which makes this world seem like another series of appearances that come and go? Relative to what is the world coming and going? In relation to what? So if everything that comes and goes is on this side. On this side, everything coming. Is there nothing on this side? Is there nothing besides that? On this side, if everything is coming and going, is there something which watches this coming and going? What about that one? See, what's on this side? Can we make this movement over there? We cannot. See? So, if we were to move away from this for some time, take our attention away from this moving parts and see what is left. Then, when that reveals itself, the knowingness itself, this awareness itself, then what can we say about the world? It's a series of appearances that comes and goes. It's just like a dream, isn't it? So in that way, by knowing, by its knowing, it's with a capital I, knowing with a capital K. Because why? It's not just that I like to play with words that I say like that. It's important to notice the difference between this kind of knowing, because we can again confuse this to feel like, okay, I know this now as an idea, as a concept. If you know it as a concept, that there is something beyond the phenomenon. See? It might be a helpful concept in terms of getting you to that insight, but besides that help, the concept is also useless. So it is helpful only as a pointer. See? So we must use these pointers as an inner invitation to see this for ourselves. What witnesses all that is moving, all that is changing? Is that you? Now, many times, because I has become much maligned, you see. I, because in most of spirituality, we've heard you must get rid of the I. The I is the enemy. Kill the I, destroy the I. Because in that way, I has been used as the ego, egoic I. I has not been used as the self, mostly. So when all these statements are made, get rid of the I, kill the egos, these things, it is from the I, which is the limited perspective that we have picked up. But the I is also the self. So why I have to clarify this is because the mind can leave you with a confusion that awareness is a discovery of something outside of me. It is not I. This is not true. It is you. It is the self means it is you. Just not you personally. It is your impersonal, non-phenomenal self. Now, from this insight about yourself, all the questions about whether the world is real, whether it is a dream, all this will be clarified. But as long as you consider yourself an object within the world, all these conclusions of the sages might seem strange. Just for the sage to say, reveals the world as a dream. If you are an object within this world, if you consider yourself to be an object within this world, it can seem like an attack on your own reality. So, the first part is more important, which is what is that? When that is known, then all this moving play of light and sound will seem no different than any other moving play of light and sound. So you will say, substantively, there is no difference between a dream and this seeming waking state. All the phenomenal forces which can come to play in the waking state are also available in the dream state. Anyway, my main point is that don't worry about that differentiation. especially if it sounds a bit oppressive or strange, you focus on this. What is it that you are? Are you also a play of light and sound? Are you also an appearance? What is your truest position? How to find the truest position? That which is not coming and going, that which is unchanging. Most of the doubts, most of the but will come from the changing. What doubt can you have about that which does not have a phenomenal quality and it is unchanging? So all confusion, all doubt can only be when we bring this changing aspect into the picture. What if you just allow the changing aspect for some time to move as it is moving? Be unconcerned about finding an answer about the changing. For some time, be unconcerned about finding an answer to the changing. Stay with your inner revelation, inner intuition of the unchanging. One may enjoy the abundant pleasures of the world, but will never be happy until giving them up. One may enjoy the abundant pleasures of the world, but will never be happy until giving them up. And yesterday, the sages explained that giving them up includes giving up the concept of coveting something or rejecting something. So, giving them up is giving up on the whole play of wanting and pushing away, the whole play of desire and aversion, not giving up as a position, giving up the position itself. How many get confused with this? Let me see some hands. How many get confused with this? So this is a subtle point which is very important, and it concerns both desire as well as doership. What I'm saying is that many times when we hear that we must give up, then we take on the position of the giver upper. You see, like I am now the giver upper. Like that. Now, even that position is not what the sage is pointing to. Sage is saying, irrespective of anything that is moving in the worldly play, you allow it to move. Remain unconcerned by this. Don't take on the position of the renouncer or the renunciate. Same thing what happens when we hear about non-doership. We take on the position of the non-doer. It is not either position, because either position implies that you're still referring to yourself as a limited entity. Now, whether you are attached or unattached, if you still consider yourself person is going to lead to suffering. Whether you are considering yourself the doer or non-doer, as long as you consider yourself to be a person, you'll still be embroiled in this play of individual suffering. Why? Because individuality is a lie. It is not the truth. And all lie must lead to some suffering. If God had designed the system where the lie could also lead to no suffering, then you would never come to this point of waking up. The way this play has been designed is that everything that we pick up from the idea of our individuality leads to some poking eventually. And we have seen this, isn't it? We have seen how many can start to feel like, I'm not the doer now. God, you are the doer. But why are you doing this to me? Why are you doing this to me? So the victim mentality can become very strong with this kind of thing. This me is the fundamental concept of trouble. The limited me, the limited I. So one may enjoy the abundant pleasures of the world, but will never be happy as long as they consider themselves to be a limited enjoyer of them until giving them up. So give up the idea of individuality, and then you don't have to work on giving up specific desires or tendencies or conditions. We are not working on the branches because branches have a habit of growing back. If you start working on the branches, if you start working on your 3Ds individually, see, then go into the 3Ds of desire and say, okay, what is all that you desire? Then you look at, okay, why you desire relationship, why you desire money. By the time we'll be done looking at one thing, something else will grow. Something else grows out. When you're done with that, then something, that first one grows back. So we're not working at the branch level. And it's okay. Many can work at the branch level, that's fine. But here we are looking more directly at the root of all of this trouble. What is the root of all of this trouble? Is this idea of a limited me. And it's just an idea supported by thoughts and sometimes some energetic feeling. That's it. In the entirety of you, it is meaningless. In the reality of you, it is meaningless. It's like one of my favorite examples is this example where I say that if there was a big white wall in front of you and I make a black dot on it, you see, small black dot on a big white wall, and I ask you, most of you, what do you see? You say, yeah, there's a dot on the wall. You see, there's a dot. There's a dot. Hardly anyone will say, but there's a big white wall. So what happens is that when we focus on our conditions, our tendencies, then the mind is quick to report to you that this must go, then you will be free. But the wall remains untouched. The space in which these energies, these thoughts are playing out remains untouched no matter what the content is. The mind will constantly give you something to fix, something to change, something to get, something to remove. Just drop out of that play. You cannot do the dropping out. Something just hears this in the monologue between consciousness. This is just heard somewhere. So don't even attempt to do the dropping out. Just whatever attention is available to you now, see if you can stay with these words. The rest is taking care of itself. Even if attention becomes a struggle, you leave that. If naturally you find yourself being able to give some attention to the words that are being spoken, that is more than enough in satsang. Drop out of this play of positions of either doer or non-doer, play of positions of the enjoyer or the renouncer. None of these apply to the truth of what you are. How can one whose innermost heart has been scorched by the sun of sorrow, sun as in sun, sun of sorrow, that comes from duty, be happy until the sweet rain of torrential stillness? Very poetic verse. How can one whose innermost heart has been scorched by the sun of sorrow that comes from duty be happy until the sweet rain of torrential stillness? What is that scorching that happens? That comes from duty means a sense of doership. I must do. What did the sage say yesterday or day before? They said, everyone is miserable because of their constant effort. What does it mean, constant effort? Again, not the movement of the body itself, but because they consider themselves to be the doer. Now, the sages also warned us that because you hear this, now don't pick up the position of the non-doer. Neither doer nor non-doer you are. Now, the mind will not understand this because mind can only understand opposites. They say, don't do this, it feels like I must do the opposite. Don't tell a lie, means I must speak the truth. Hardly any mind will say that means be quiet. You see, if I say don't tell a lie, the mind will say, yes, you must always tell the truth. Why the mind doesn't say, okay, this means be quiet? Because it deals in opposites, you see. Because you are not the doer, okay, then I am the non-doer. You see? You must not be concerned about what worldly pleasure is coming. Yeah. Then I must give up all worldly pleasure. And sometimes the words in scriptures also sound like that. That's why sometimes it's needed that we share like this in more detail. Because the sages will put the clues in very clearly, but the mind will latch on to its idea of what the sage is saying. So like that, we have to look at this and come to this stillness. From doership, we don't move to non-doership. We move to stillness. Stillness means doing and non-doing can happen. I am untouched by it. That's why Guruji also says, surrender the surrenderer as well. Surrender all the ers. The doer, the non-doer, the experiencer, the non-experiencer, the forgiver, any position that you can take on, just give it up and give up the one who is giving. How to do all of this? Just don't buy what your mind is selling you. Don't believe your next thought. Allow it to just come and go. Allow yourself to just remain as I am. Just be. Just being. Not a beer. The old guy is not here. The old guy is not here, so the joke won't make sense. Oh, good. Chaitanya, the joke still makes sense. We know who that was for.
Which you're telling, allow yourself. That again is a
Can be a position. Yeah. Remain open can be a position. That's why I said how to do all this. Just don't buy what your next thought is selling you. It is consciousness itself, I am, which picks up an attribute for I am, which says I am something. So this attaching of attributes only works with our belief. Now, pose as if you are something without picking up any concept. You see? At least you need the concept of what you have to pose as. It's just not possible. And the mind itself will come and say, but this belief also happens just automatically. And I know it can feel like that. As we are still, from a limited perspective, many times it can feel like, but belief also just goes automatically, so how not to believe? But you'll notice that belief, this to give a yes, to give assent to a concept about yourself, only comes from consciousness. So the power of belief belongs to consciousness. And consciousness is never powerless. You can never say, oh, consciousness itself doesn't have any power to let go of these concepts. So consciousness is only playing as if it is habituated, has the habit of giving belief to something. So consciousness has also given you the solution for that. When it feels like there are some concepts which always get our belief, then pull those beliefs, those concepts into our inquiry. So the popular concept in Satsang is, I am not yet free. I'm not yet there. I'm not yet free. So investigate this I who is not yet free. Does this I have any reality? And you'll find that there is no such I here who could be free or not free. If it doesn't exist, then the attribute of freedom or bondage does not apply. We saw this previously also in the Ashtavakra. So that which persistently seemed like a habit, then pull it into your inquiry and say, who is the I who is not free? And notice the mind, what I was saying, will immediately try to sell you the opposite concept, you are free. But I didn't say that. I said that freedom and bondage do not apply. Because even in the concept you are free, you can pick up the idea of a limited me. So Guruji, when he says, come to me naked, he means naked of these concepts, of all opposites, empty of any condition. And it is completely in your power as consciousness to withdraw your belief from any concept that you have even nourished for millions of years in the past. Then you come to a simple letting go. So when the thought comes, because it will try to keep coming and poking you, you are not yet free, or I am not yet free, you will find that there is a greater ease in allowing it to let it go, allowing yourself to let it go. This is the allowing. When I say open, I am not talking about the position of open. When I say open, I'm saying empty of all reference points, empty of all self definition. That's why I keep saying, like a newborn baby. The universe is but a thought in consciousness. In reality, it is nothing. One who sees the true nature of existence and non existence never ceases to exist. The universe is but a thought in consciousness. In reality, it is nothing. One who sees the true nature of existence and non existence never ceases to exist. The universe is but a thought in consciousness. Now, usually in satsang, we have defined thought as that particular energy construct which is always claiming our individuality, that which we call the mind. This particular energy construct, which is this voice, which tells us the message of individuality, we have called a thought. We have called a thought. Now, the sage has broadened the definition of a thought, and he's saying that every energy construct, you see, is just a thought. All is made up of consciousness. He's saying that all of these energy constructs, no matter what their shape and size might be, he is considering that to be a thought right now. So he's saying the universe is but a thought in consciousness. So in consciousness, consciousness is I am. As this I am wakes up, then this play of universe wakes up. So all of it is just the light of consciousness made up of consciousness itself. So we can consider thought to be like a product of consciousness, a subset of consciousness. Universe is just a thought. It's like the dream can be called just a play of thought. It seems like it is a manifest universe. But now on waking up, you find that you would say that, it was just my mind's play. What does it mean? Actually, play of consciousness playing as a manifest universe. Now, what did we say? Find that which is unchanging. Now, from that reference point, you will see that this universe, any manifest play, is just a coming and going. These words can only be spoken from that position. As long as you still consider yourself to be an object within this manifestation, then these words will not smell of truth when they are spoken by you. So don't be in a rush to proclaim any of this. Because many times when we hear these glorious words that for me the universe is just a thought, then something, the mind wants to quickly jump and proclaim this for yourself. There is no rush for that. You stay with the truth of what you are discovering about yourself. Let all these utterances, if they have to come through your mouth, let them come on their own, with their own beauty and their own fragrance. No person has ever spoken these words as if they were true. Make sense?
Universe is just a thought.
No person has ever spoken these words as if they were true. No person has. It can only be spoken from intuitive insight, from the divine presence. Every time it is spoken personally, it smells untrue. So universe is just a thought from which reference point. If you consider yourself to be just an object in the universe, then from that reference point we cannot say something like that. You must find what the truth of I is. Who is the self? Now you find if you find yourself to be this unchanging, unborn, undying, non-phenomenal self, that is the pure witnessing of all that is coming and going, then these words will start to smell true, start to ring true. If you consider yourself to be just a mere body in this apparent universe, then these words might sound very glorious, but they might not still ring so true. So now from that position, what do you find about the universe? In the position of the self, what can you say about the universe?
It's a reflection.
It's like a reflection. It's like a dream. It's like a coming and going. Now, that's why I said that when we use the term thought in satsang, we refer to a particular aspect of this reflection, which is this energy construct of thoughts, thinking. Okay? Now, the sage has broadened that and included everything into that energy construct and said everything is just one big coming and going. This entire universe for the self is nothing but a big coming and going play of consciousness. So he has no trouble in describing it as a thought of consciousness. The universe is but a thought in consciousness. In reality, it is nothing. And the thing means it doesn't have any reality, it doesn't have a real tangibility in relation to your reality. Again, it is the perspective which is important. One who sees the true nature of existence and non-existence never ceases to exist. This is one of the most beautiful lines. One who sees the true nature of existence and non-existence never ceases to exist. Which one is this one? This one that sees the true nature of existence and non-existence. Let's see if we can find this one right now. What is aware of your existence? And if you're struggling to understand what it means existence, then follow the simple exercise which I give you, which is to try and stop being. Don't be. Try to stop being. Just don't be. You will notice that there is a presence here which cannot be stopped. I exist. I am. Now, when you say I am itself, stay with me. When you say I am itself, you could be saying it in one of two ways. One way could be, I'm not sure, but I like the idea that I am. And second would be that I am aware that I am. So is it just an idea that you are, an attractive idea of your existence, or it is so plain that you exist? You are aware of it, isn't it? This that is aware of it, again, stay with me. The mind will resist this. Don't be worried about it. This that is aware of your existence, is that awareness also an object contained within existence, or is it independent of existence? Every object comes and goes. If I don't exist, there is no objective experience. And yet, awareness remains, which sees this, which is aware of this, that I am is gone. All the objects are gone. I am has come. All the objects have come. That's why we are able to say that there is something called sleep state, there is something called waking state. That's why Papaji very often used to ask this, what wakes up when you say you woke up? The sense of existence. And yet, there is a witnessing of even this. So, this awareness, this self that is aware of existence and also of non existence, of sleep state, that one always exists. That one always exists. Before I am. You see, one of the best clues, as Guruji has given us, is the title of one of his books, Before I Am. Now, the sage is speaking at that level. I am is sense of existence. There is something which is before, which is prior, not in time, but greater, truer, because even I am ultimately comes and goes. That's why the sage said, one who sees the true nature of existence and non existence never ceases to exist. The self, which is absolute, effortless, timeless, immaculate, is without limits and at no distance from you. You are forever it. How many clues in just one verse? Powerhouse verse, isn't it? Absolute, effortless, timeless, immaculate, beyond all limits. What is it that is your discovery that conforms to all of these clues? Now, what is it that you can say absolute? Because in the previous verse, we saw that even existence comes and goes. Even existence comes and goes and is effortless. You are not trying to be aware. In fact, if you were to try and become unaware, you couldn't do it. Needs no effort. Nobody taught us how to be aware. timeless, beyond this play of time and space. Awareness, the self is not aging. How old is your awareness? That which is witnessing all phenomena, does it have an age? Is it subject to time? The unborn and the undying, the eternal, is timeless, immaculate. Immaculate because it is completely empty of any qualities, any attributes. To have a lack, to be tainted in some way, needs some quality. How can this self, which is empty of any phenomenal quality, have any sort of incompletion, any sort of lack, any sort of taint? None of these apply to the self. Therefore, it is always immaculate and is without limits. Like I said, beyond time and space, limitations do not apply. This is the opposite of what the mind is telling you, because the mind is always trying to define you, always trying to set your limits. You are the undefined. Now the sage is saying that, and it has no distance from you. You are forever it. Forever it. That means you have always only been this. That is the whole play of Maya. You see? How the absolute, effortless, timeless, immaculate, limitless one starts to consider itself to be all these opposites, subject to time, subject to birth and death, guilty of things, full of doership and effort. Now the sage is saying, you are this one, and you are forever it. It is at no distance from you. Where to go to find it? Look, even to find your body, you have to take the step of noticing a sensation or a visual of the body. To find your mind, you have to take a step to notice a thought or an imagination or a memory. To find emotions, you need to take a step to notice some sensation. To find the world, you need to take a step, which is to go to the senses. How to find that which is at no distance from you. Don't take a step anywhere. When you take a step, you are moving to this side of the perception, the moving side. What's on the other side? Before you take the step, who are you? What are you? For those whose vision, for those whose vision becomes unclouded, illusion evaporates, and the self becomes known. All sorrow is instantly dispelled. As you find yourself to be this timeless, non-phenomenal self, you will struggle to become miserable. I mean is that it will be a struggle if you want to get suffering for yourself. All suffering has come only from the limited notion of yourself. Empty of notions, you cannot suffer. And once you see the reality of what you are, which is empty of notions, then to pick up notions will seem like a struggle. Seeing everything is imagination. Knowing the self as timelessly free, the sage lives as a child. Seeing everything is imagination. Knowing the self as timelessly free, the sage lives as a child. Sometimes you really feel like Ashtavakra is here and guiding these words because this is what we just said. So that when you see, when we go to perception, when you're seeing this moving, when you look at what is prior to that, then you see this timeless, unchanging, non-phenomenal self. Exactly what was just spoken. Knowing himself as absolute, knowing existence and non-existence to be imagination only. What is there for the desireless one to learn, say, or do? Knowing himself as absolute, knowing existence and non-existence to be imagination only. What is there for the desireless one to learn, say, or do? This is important because many times there can be confusion about, but does awareness really know itself? And sometimes sages have also said contradictory things, so we get confused. Now, Just to say I am aware implies that awareness is aware of itself. Even, of course, the saying is not a prerequisite, but just this simple recognition. It is awareness itself. How could it be unaware of itself? It is awareness of everything. Here, there are very few words to explain this because this is so beyond words. The Absolute is completely aware of itself. How would it not be? It is the Absolute. Otherwise, awareness itself would have to go on a journey of self discovery. When we say I am aware, we can say it actually in two ways. We can say that as consciousness, I am coming to this recognition of my source, which is awareness itself. Now, if an aspect of awareness, which is consciousness, can come to this discovery, how will the source be empty of this discovery? It is because our idea of knowing can still be confused. Our idea of knowing is still having a concept of something. Our awareness is conceptless. So, in that way, it does not know itself. If you feel like knowing means a concept, having a concept about yourself, then it doesn't. If it feels like having a perceptual experience of something means knowing something, then it doesn't. You see, all of this also belongs to it only. But I'm saying that in its purest, non-phenomenal self, there is just a knowingness. Knowingness, knowing itself. Itself cannot be outside of its own knowing. So although there is nothing to be known mentally, nothing to be known perceptually or emotionally, or in any worldly way, knowingness itself knows itself. That's why the sage said, knowing himself as absolute, knowing existence and non-existence. So awareness is aware, which means knows itself. Knowingness knows itself, means awareness is aware. And it is aware that I exist. You are aware of your existence. Right now, you are aware that you exist. Anyway, these are wordless things which we try to put some words to, just to provide some clarification if possible. If they're still very confusing for you, best to leave it aside and you stay with the simple clues that have been given. Find out what is that unchanging witness of all there is. And all these things will become clear to us. What is there for the desireless one to learn, say, or do? Nothing for the self to pick up any such effort from some sense of limitation. Knowing for certain that all is self, the sage has no trace of thoughts, such as I am this or I am not that. No trace. So no trace means that these thoughts they can come and go, but they leave no trace. They leave no footmarks behind. They leave no identity or condition behind them because they are not given belief. They leave no marks. They leave no condition. To come to our unassociated being means only this, that all that has left a trace is now let go of. your basket of beliefs is emptied out. If you did not believe anything about yourself, would you be all right? If you had no concept also of all right. You know what I mean. You, how many of you still feel like at least these few beliefs I need to have to exist? Come on, tell the truth. One or two hands are going. This is what trust and devotion helps you. So as your trust and devotion is growing, you will find that all my existence is the problem of Sadguru. Existence is problem. So use this as an opportunity to throw away these beliefs in the fire of satsang right now, today, here. See if you collapse. See if your existence goes away. You're still here. Innocently like a child. Throw away these toys that you no longer need. You're still here. You exist. Your existence is effortless. The world's play is effortless. Yourself is effortless. It needs no crutches of anything at all. The yogi who finds stillness is neither distracted nor focused. He knows neither pleasure nor pain. Ignorance dispelled. He is free of knowing. So, same thing what we were saying. The interpretation is going one paragraph ahead of the verses. Be empty of all that you know. So we all concepts of any of these opposites. Now, this is a beautiful clue. What the sage is saying, why it's a bit blue. Ignorance dispelled. He is free of knowing. Isn't it a beautiful line? Ignorance dispelled. Now, our idea of ignorance has been that who does not know anything. And sage is saying the opposite. Our idea of ignorance is what we call the ignorant one. Oh, he doesn't know anything. Now he's saying, sage is saying ignorance is dispelled. You don't know anything. Because all that we have picked up about ourselves has been about a limited idea about ourselves. We throw this away and true knowing awakens. This ignorance is the apparent darkness, of which the Guru is the dispeller. In Sanskrit, the word Guru itself translates into the dispeller of darkness, that which brings light. So ignorance itself, just like darkness, doesn't have any substance to itself. There's nothing phenomenal that you have to change. It is just a misunderstanding. It's just a misunderstanding. You saw a snake where there was a rope. You thought that you are something limited in this body. That limited one was never there. That's it. Just like the snake was never there. That limited one was never there. That is all that you are discovering. All the rest is in service to that discovery. Yes.
Snake and rope thing. I knew the word meaning, but a clarity came some time ago, a few days ago. I don't know if it is my clarity, my intuition told me that since awareness, since consciousness comes out of awareness, and awareness is the rope, and is awareness the rope, and consciousness the snake? Because consciousness is not there when you are fully aware. You are just aware. There is no consciousness. Consciousness emanates from awareness. There is no difference. It's seamless. So, it's just snake consciousness and the rope awareness.
Usually, the way it is said, although I like what you said very much, it is the ultimate reality that display of existence and non-existence also ultimately you can never say has really happened or is real in any way. See? So what you're speaking of is the ultimate truth. Now, what I would say usually how it is used is that we consider a jiva or a I am something where there was only Atma, just I am. We consider there to be a limited entity. I am something. I am Gopala. I am Ananta. Is it? But actually, there was only I am. There was only consciousness. So usually, I feel the sages have used it in this context. But I like very much also what you said. I would say that just like the story of the two birds, the three birds actually, but, or two birds and one non-bird. Just like the story of that story, we can also say in this case that which saw the rope and the snake, which itself is neither rope nor snake, is awareness. Then we can look at it like that. Then the metaphor can become complete. So there's a witnessing,
There
and
is
there is
an image. An image is only there comes.
and only this consciousness comes as just I am, and then the superimposition on top of I am as I am something, which is the basis of all egoic belief. Okay? Apparent snake where there was none. Nice. Heaven or poverty, gain or loss, society or solitude, to a yogi free of conditioning, there is no difference. Heaven or poverty, gain or loss, society or solitude, to the yogi free of conditioning, it makes no difference. pretty clear from whatever we've said so far. Then chapter 18, verse 12, religious merit, sensory pleasure, worldly prosperity, discrimination between this and that, these have no significance to a yogi free of opposites, such as I do this and this I do not. Very good. Again, we've discussed most of this. Religious merit, sensory pleasure, worldly prosperity, discrimination between this and that. These have no significance to a yogi free of opposites such as I do this and this I do not do. All of this play of opposites we've discussed for a long time today. The yogi who is liberated while living has no duties in this world, no attachments in his heart. His life proceeds without him. So beautiful, last line. His life proceeds without him. This is the last line clarifies. So it's not playing in the opposites of duties and no duties, attachments and no attachments. It's just allowed to play as it is. Life proceeds without him. For the great soul who abides beyond desire, where is illusion? Where is the universe? Where is meditation on that? Where even is liberation from them? Therefore, all of these things, all the contemplations, all the meditation, all the inquiry, is to come to this discovery. What is it that I am? I am complete, beyond the concept of complete. What desire can I truly have? So once we come to this desirelessness, then all of this was part of, is seen to have been part of the play. And whatever continues after that is also seen to be part of the play, the movement of consciousness. He who sees the world may try to renounce it. But what can the desireless one do? He sees that there is nothing to see. He sees the world as something which I have a relationship with, me and the world. Many times when we come to the discovery of the self, we get stuck in expectations of how the world should perceive us now. Many have said like somebody was telling me also last time. We expect our closest relationships to see this. I'm making this discovery. Why can't they see? Why can't they tell there is something different about me? How blind are they? Like these kind of expectations and ideas get picked up, and these become then the back door for the ego to come back in. The spiritual ego plays upon this. So me and the world, as long as this play of me in the world it continues, then notice that this me is still holding a concept about itself. In our openness, we find that everything is allowed. There is freedom for everything to move as it is. And when I say everything, it also includes this body. The body will continue to move in its own way, as designated by consciousness. So don't separate the appearance of your body from the rest of the appearance. Many are doing that. When they say the world is an appearance, they're looking at everything. But this also. Okay? And then if you see that the appearance is moving effortlessly, then that includes this also, all of this. So don't allow your mind to come in with that subtle trick which makes this boundary here between the world, some physical boundary. No, everything phenomenal is the world. Your actions are the world. The words are the world. So when we say allow the world to move effortlessly, means this allowing includes this body in it. Don't be so concerned about what now others' thoughts are about the movements or actions of this body. That's another trump card of the mind. It'll tell you that yes, you're empty of thoughts now, or you're not believing your thoughts. But why are the others thinking of me like this? Why is my husband or wife thinking of me like this? Why is my partner thinking of me like this? And what did we find about thoughts? That they made no consideration. We can just come and go. But this thought will still come here saying, oh, but you must explain to them that their thoughts are not true. All these tricks the mind will play include everything phenomenal in the world and know that it is moving with the will of consciousness as it has to move. You don't even have to step back from the world as we have seen. To give the world the notion of reality needs a step forward. You have to go to the mind, you have to go somewhere to pick up the notion. And he says, Father, how does a sage live in the world where he is seen as a live entity? A sage does not actually live in the world. Sage does not really live in the world. That outer expression in this play, what is happening is that it seems like some aspects of consciousness are discovering their true souls. None of this is true, the absolute truth. But this, we need to give some explanation to clarify. So, in the appearance, we find that most aspects of consciousness continue to move as if they're individual entities. Some rare aspects of consciousness seem to come to this discovery of their true self, which is non-phenomenal. So your question must mean then how does this outer appearance of this one seem to move? That one seems to move in the same way, with the same power that it always did. Only consciousness was making this movie come alive, and it continues to be consciousness making the movie come alive. You see? But consciousness is also designed it in such a way that those who are open to this very same discovery about themselves, yearning for the same truth about themselves, those aspects of consciousness who are yearning for this, when they come across such an aspect, such a being in their outward play, will immediately sense a sense of attraction, some resonance. And it is not just with this, it seems to be the design of consciousness. So I've seen like this in worldly life, you see like this. If you have some friends who are very interested in wine, for example, so they're a collector of wine, they're a connoisseur of wine. All they have to do is hear the word wine from another one, and they'll be so attracted. Oh, wine! Okay, what is it that you like? Which what do you call it? Which vintage do you like to collect? All this will be there. So this attraction to commonality, to resonance, is there in this play of consciousness. In the same way, when there is one aspect which has come to this unwavering discovery about their self, and if that yearning is true in your heart, when you come across such a being, there's bound to be this resonance and attraction. So then, this is how the life of the sage plays out, where due to some reason or another, those who are meant to come to them to find the same truths that they have discovered about themselves, they seem to be drawn. So that is why in the presence of the sage, you might find a lot of peace, a lot of joy, a lot of shanti, coming to a stillness, quietude. Whereas another who is yet not looking for this in the worldly play might find just torture of boredom and frustration. And that has happened here also. That some who have come fresh without knowing what they were getting into just couldn't handle it. Some had to leave within the first few minutes. This is the outward play of the sage. Now, if the sage was deciding how to live, then the sage would still be considering himself the doer. The sage doesn't live on the basis of this kind of effortful doership. And you know very well what that means. It doesn't mean that the doing stops. But a simpler way of putting it is that the sage's body just becomes an instrument for the divine presence.
So, Father, and the owner of the existence and the one who knows, the one who owns the existence, just hand over the existence to the one who owns the existence and the play, because the play does not leave any scratch on you, on the knowing of your own self. Even within the play also, even if however hard you try, it doesn't get any scratch. But the existence is not owned by you. You just happen to exist and know that you know of yourself. You are the knowing of yourself. But the existence is a gift. Existence is a gift. I cannot say that, I'm a self-sustaining existence. If I say that, then I enter the play.
You see, so there are two ways in which you could have asked this question. How does a sage live? The first way is to come from this innocent curiosity. So, Father, what happens? What changes? Just for the joy of it. And the second way would be where subtly you're trying to say, so then how should I live?
Yes, Father. I want to know how should I live. While it should not be my problem, and I'm not bothered even. It is because I'm entering this satsang. I know I'm entering this satsang. Otherwise, as a child, I don't even know what you are talking. I have not learned the language at all. I just see you. Your mouth, they are moving. There are so many faces here. A child would respond to, any stimuli, and we'll feel happy that somebody is talking to me. So far, I was just like this in this satsang. But as soon as I tried to listen outside of my innocence, immediately something came up. I had a choice to either let it pass or to ask you. But this is not my choice. If I consider everything as my choice, then at the same time, I also see that it does not affect knowingness of my own self. It doesn't leave any scratch. Father, if I don't ask you, then whom shall I ask, these subtle things? If you tell me to keep mouth shut and let everything pass and just be an infant, I will do that. If you feel like replying to this, you reply. Whatever you say, because all this has been triggered by my masters. If I was capable, then why it did not happen before Guruji touched me? So I know whatever is being played by my Guru. He shows me what I see. There is absolutely no doubt about it.
Yes. So, in whatever you said so far, the one that was most attractive for me was when you said, I can let all of this pass and I can be just like an infant. And if you say, I will do it. So I've been saying this for some time.
Yes, fine. Fine, Father. That is fine. Actually, sometimes there is a rebouncing again and again, again and again. So, because the interpreter comes in between to, an interpreter, thinker, analyzer, it comes in between. And I don't hide it within myself. I expose it immediately before you.
Even an infant even doesn't have that position. It is not even knowing whether it is hiding or exposing. Whatever happens just happens naturally. So yes, that would be best. That would be just the best. Hari said, Father, so play of desire and fear is also part of appearance, and it is also part of play as the rest of the world. Yes. Yes, my dear. That's why I'm saying that all of this depends on our perspective. If we are still somewhere holding on to a limited notion about ourselves, then we must not be in a rush to claim any of the world as an appearance, because we still consider ourselves to be an entity within the appearance. Then our focus should remain on finding out who we truly are. Once it is seen that I am beyond this play, then all these words will be very natural. The play of desire, the play of fear. Because once you have seen what you are, as you are seeing what you are, then you will find that the potential of any of these appearances, desire and fear, to cause any real suffering, it goes away, because the misunderstanding that there is a snake which can bite you is taken away. In themselves, no appearance, including desire and fear, are a problem. It is only the interpretation of them as something which create the trouble. So as you are checking on the reality of what you are, as you are seeing that this is all part of the coming and going of appearance, you will see that sometimes there can be this appearance of wanting something, the appearance of fear from something, but it will not be held on to. You will not make a thing out of it, as I say sometimes. So as a part of the play, the appearance can continue, but that's what I was saying earlier. It is usually seen that in those aspects of consciousness which have come to the recognition of what they truly are, then the appearance of these qualities does not become sticky, does not become part of the condition, part of the part of some sort of an individual play. All that is dropped away. Then Pratna said, his life proceeds without him. Father, whatever needs happening and functioning will happen without intervention from this false imagined one. Right, Father? Yes. Something is wanting reassurance. Yes, big yes, capital YES. I know this feeling of reassurance, wanting reassurance. Because as the switching over of power, you see, and this switchover is also conceptual actually. It is only consciousness that has always run our life. But as this seeming switching over is happening from the individual power, individual ego to being itself, then there can be this feeling of, this is what I was saying, wobbliness, shakiness. And as the shakiness is there, I know that sometimes this reassurance is needed. Everything will be taken care of. So when you look at the question itself, it says, whatever needs happening and functioning will happen without the intervention of this false imagined one. See? The question itself has the answer, isn't it? Now, if something is false or just imagined, can that really intervene in the happening and functioning of life? So same as what you were saying when you were here. If I say the non-existent blue cat spilled that bowl of milk over there, you will say he's talking crazy. Is it? So if it is an imagined one, how would it do something in this life? So in that way, in that way, this kind of fear can come. Like she's saying, some fear came. In that way, this kind of fear can come, which we also know is actually unwarranted. But sometimes you need just some reassurance that everything is taken care of, and that reassurance is always there with you, with a capital YES, all caps, shouting. The fear also is my problem. Okay, let's see if we can get to 20 verses. We get to 20 verses, means in 5 days we can finish chapter 18. He who has seen the Supreme Brahma thinks, I am Brahma. But he who has transcended all thought, what can he think? He who knows, he knows no other than self. He who has seen the Supreme Brahma thinks, I am Brahma. But he who has transcended all thought, what can he think? He knows no other than self. So you might have seen any aspect of consciousness, Brahma, Vishnu, Shiva. Okay, now I said this, so I'll have to clarify it. There are two ways in which we define Shiva. One is as this pure self, as awareness itself. So when we say come to your Shiva nature, we come into that Shiva which is even beyond consciousness, which is Shakti, Shiva and Shakti. So that is one way in which Shiva is used in Indian spirituality. The second way in which Shiva is used in spirituality is to look at three aspects of consciousness. If you were to look at pure consciousness and give it some aspects, one simple way to do that is to say the creator is one aspect, That aspect of God, which is the creator, is one aspect, which is Brahma. That aspect of God, which is the sustainer, the provider, gives this life energy, life essence, that is Vishnu. And then the regenerator, the destroyer, the one that leads to all of this getting freshened up again, clean up job happening, is Shiva. So here when he's saying you might have seen the supreme aspect of consciousness, which is Brahma himself, and you might say, you might pick it up as a concept. I am Brahma. But he who has transcended all thought, what can he think? That means what thought has any value for him now, any meaning or relevance for him now. You see that you are beyond all of this, even the aspects of consciousness. And the mind can only operate within the aspects of consciousness, give you reports from within this phenomenal play. As glorious as the play might be, you are transcending all of it. He knows no other than self. There is nothing greater than the discovery of the self. Even Arjuna's perception of Krishna as the enormous form, the Virat Roop, we saw the form of Krishna maybe in chapter 17 of the Bhagavad Gita, or I might be wrong about the chapter number. But most of you know this conversation, isn't it? A beautiful conversation called the Bhagavad Gita, in which Krishna is sharing the truth of the self. But Arjuna is playing the role of the typical seeker. And after some point, he's starting to get frustrated and he says, show me your real form. Because he's still very attached to the form. Then Krishna says, okay, let me show you a form which is beyond any other form that you have so far perceived. And he sees this enormous, magnificent form of Krishna in which all the universes are coming and going, and life and death are in service to this form. And everything, the most magnificent form that you can imagine or fathom, is seen as a perception of Arjuna. But the simple recognition of the self, even through the simple pointing, are you aware now, is beyond any form, including that form. The formless Krishna, the formless self that Krishna is pointing to in most of the rest of the Gita, is more valuable than the form that was seen. And Arjuna also came to the discovery actually much later, closer to his death actually. That's a story for another day. So we can get great spiritual experiences, we can see all kinds of lights and fire. You might even see all these universes bouncing around from place to place. But if we make worldly concepts out of them and just feed them to our sense of specialness, they will only contribute to our spiritual ego. If they remain as the pointers that they are meant to be, to open our mind, to go beyond our current perceptions and point to the formless nature of your own self, and that is the right use of spiritual experiences. So some are sharing from what they feel still is like a constriction for them. And along with that, you're also sharing that it's my problem now. Now you have reported and you have surrendered it. It is my problem. Don't give it another thought. If it is my problem, now you don't need to give it another thought. It is the same as saying forget about it. If you give it to me and then you keep feeding it, if you give it more thoughts, is it going yet? Has it gone yet? Is father taking care of it in this way? Then that's again feeding it now. So the fire example is very good. Once you throw it in the fire, then don't jump back into the fire and see how it's going, how the burning is going. He achieves self-control who sees his own distraction. But the great soul is not distracted. He has nothing to achieve. He has nothing to do. Shared enough about all this. The man of knowledge may live as an ordinary man, but he is not. He sees he is neither focused nor distracted and finds no fault with himself. This is answering the question, how does the sage live? The man of knowledge lives may live as an ordinary man, but he is not. And we explain why he is not. He sees he is neither focused nor distracted and finds no fault within himself. Means what? The play of guilt is no longer functioning. He sees all actions. He sees, like I said, he sees this body being used as a divine instrument. Therefore, he cannot blame the non-existent entity for any action. So he's beyond not just blame but also praise. All praise which is offered here is also recognized as offered to the Sadguru, which is your own praise. Neither praise nor blame is taken personally. He who is beyond existence and non-existence, who is wise, satisfied, free of desire, does nothing, though the world may see him in motion. It is expanding on the same point. He who is beyond existence and non-existent, who is wise, satisfied, free of desire, does nothing, though the world may see him in motion. Sometimes we have these kind of questions. Like, who was asking the other day? Soumya, she asked me after Satsang got over, then I was sharing a little bit about learning about this diet called intermittent fasting. She asked me very, very, very innocently and beautifully, but how can you be interested in fasting if you see that you are beyond the body? So we see that in the worldly play, the motion of all of this, including the play of taking care of this body to some level, you see, or neglecting the body to some level, all this play of opposites can still continue without the notion of picking up this individual sense of doership. The play continues, but there is no sense that I am doing it. I am as much watching this play of Ananta as you are. There is nothing special in this. You are as much watching the play of Pratna and Omkar and not any of you. As consciousness, you are perceiving this play. You are watching this body. It seems so intimate in its sensations and its perspective. That is your true position, the witnessing. And it is running with its own, in its own way. Just the idea that the non-existent entity is doing something or not doing something is dropped away. So I was joking with her and say, I think once I discovered that I am not truly the husband, should I then go to Garima and tell her that we are getting a divorce? It doesn't play like that. It doesn't have to. The play of life will continue in its own way. What will stop mostly is the predicting it, the desiring it to go only this way, not that way, the wanting the quality of the appearance or the content of the appearance to change in some way. All of these are requirements that come from the mind, the requirements of the limited notion of ourselves. Most of that gets dropped away. Also, never pick up the idea that 100% it will be dropped away. There is no 100% in this phenomenal play. You might even suffer for a few seconds. When we say end of suffering, doesn't mean that, oh, we for some sorrow cannot come. Maybe they come, and if they come with great strength, for a few minutes, they might even take over this phenomenal play of the body. But you will not buy into the idea that there is somebody called you which is suffering. You will not buy into the idea of the sufferer. And the play of the world, it is also designed that that which is not resisted in this way also doesn't seem to last very long. So far, that has been my experience. That which is met with openness seems to lose its bite very easily. But if you have the expectation that it must lose its bite, then that is no longer openness. He who is beyond existence and non-existence, who is wise, satisfied, free of desire, does nothing, though the world may see him in motion. The wise one is not troubled by action or inactivity. The wise one is not troubled by action or inactivity. He lives happily, doing whatever gets done. Doing whatever gets done. It's a little bit Zen, no? These few verses today. What was that earlier one that Partner said? His life proceeds without him. God, like doing whatever gets done. Like a leaf in the wind, the liberated one is untethered from life. Like a leaf in the wind, the liberated one is untethered from life, desireless, independent, free. Untethered, so we've been tethered to this identity, to the concept of myself. Now, flying free like a leaf in the wind, not tethered to anything, no sticky identity, no preconceived notions about ourselves. For one who has transcended the world, there is no joy or sorrow. With a still mind, he lives on, with no body. For one who has transcended the world, there is no joy or sorrow. With a still mind, he lives on, with no body. So we've explained all these points earlier. If anyone is still confused about some of this, about no joy, because It might be a scary notion, no, will I lose all my joy? Then we'll explain it again. I've done it before many times, so I'm not repeating it now, but if you're new to Satsang, you can ask. One who knows self, whose mind is serene and spotless, does not desire to give up anything, nor does he miss what is not there. One who knows self, whose mind is serene and spotless, does not desire to give up anything, nor does he miss what is not there. His mind, being in a natural state of emptiness, the wise one, knows nothing, knows nothing of honor and dishonor. He does what comes to be done. His mind, being in a natural state of emptiness, the wise one knows nothing of honor and dishonor. He does what comes to be done. Pretty straightforward now. One who acts knowing this is done by the body, not by I, pure self, indeed does nothing, no matter how much acting takes place. Now, done by the body means done as a movement of consciousness itself. I, the ultimate I, remains unconcerned with all of these movements of consciousness. So, that one becomes like this. He sees that he indeed does nothing, no matter how much acting takes place. Which means how much action takes place, although acting has another meaning also, which applies. The liberated one acts without claiming to be acting. But he is no fool. He is blessed and happy, even though in the world. What is happening here? I won't get into every line. Even though in the world means it is countering the notion, which is also spoken from a different place and has some truth in it, of course. The notion that the world is suffering. I mean, as long as the world is existing, then suffering must be there. So that is a misunderstanding of what Buddha said. To consider yourself to be an object within this world, a limited entity in this world, is the cause of suffering. The world by itself, uninterpreted, unjudged, cannot lead to suffering. So the sage is saying, even though the play of the world continues, that the play of suffering stops. We'll close here, but I want to make this point about suffering. Now, some of you might say that why is it said, especially in Advaita Vedanta, that suffering stops? Is suffering also not the will of consciousness? It's a very valid question. Why do we focus on this end of suffering, or almost 100% end of suffering? Why is this an important notion in Vedanta? It is because in the design of this play, unless there is this egoic identity, unless there is a belief in this limited self, the play of this aspect called suffering cannot happen. Because suffering is not a pure energetic appearance. Like we can say anger can be looked at as a pure energetic appearance. Something happens, something feels attacked, anger comes. Now, how to make anger into resentment? Can you do it without mixing egoic belief with that? How to make not just anger into resentment? How will you make an action that happened? Suppose you shouted at your children. Yeah? Some shouting happened at your children. How will you make that movement into guilt? Can you do it without mixing egoic identity, mixing the false into it? How will you make something said which helped another one in a great way? Suppose you were just with someone and something was said and they really said, "Wow, thank you, that helped me so much." How will you convert that movement of appearances into pride? You cannot do it without mixing the I concept into it. So suffering is just a play of all of these B grade emotions, as I call them, which means that you take this pure emotion, which might be sensation, which might be coming, you mix it up with some thoughts about yourself, and then it becomes anger, becomes resentment, appearances become guilt or pride. So suffering is just a generic name for all of these B grade emotions. It's a generic name. When we are experiencing any of these, we seem to be experiencing any of these, we say that this is suffering. Now, as more and more you're becoming empty of egoic belief, you're coming to the pure insight about what you really are, then to pick up this individualized I thought become more and more of trouble. And you already saw that guilt, pride, resentment, regret, remorse, uh, any of these suffering, qualities of suffering that we spoke about, not possible unless you mix up some sensation with the individual I thought. That is why it is seen that those who have come to this discovery and more are letting go of the false conditions about themselves, they come to the end of their suffering. Just like saying they come to the end of guilt or pride. Of course, everything always was the play of consciousness, but we are talking about now the mechanics and the design of consciousness itself in its apparent play. And it seems to work in this way that unless you pick up the notion of a limited I, you cannot play with experience such as guilt and pride, resentment and guilt. That is why it is said in Vedanta over and over again that you come to your end of suffering only in your true recognition of who you are. Now, yes, like every notion, there is a downside to this notion also. The downside of this notion also is that suffering comes to an end, is handed over to the seeker identity, the rampant seeker identity called the checker guy, or at least I call it the checker guy, which is then uses that itself, like the mildest appearance of any sensation, and says, see, you're still suffering. And thereby enhancing egoic belief and therefore enhancing suffering itself in the play. See? So when it's handed over to the ego itself, where suffering must come to an end, then it can become a terrible notion. Therefore, this statement, this end of suffering, must be just an innocent statement of what you're finding about the play of this life. It must not become a column in your report card. Because you will say, use concepts like I should no longer feel guilt to make yourself feel guilty. So, so one is a report of how the design of consciousness of the functioning of this play works. And the second is the notions of trying to get there or trying to come to it forcefully, which itself seem to amplify the trouble. Are you hearing? Are you hearing what I'm saying? Because it's a bit subtle. If your hands are truly open, then this notion of suffering will seem more and more alien. If they are closed, if there is resistance, if there is just conceptual understanding, then it might seem like suffering still perpetuates. And if suffering still seems to perpetuate, don't then feed yourself also that at that time the notion that suffering must end. Just remain empty of notions as possible. it is important to present both sides of this to you, because there are many who will present just one side and that might cause confusion on that side. And I know that especially those who have been in satsang long enough now are able to see this from both perspectives. Thank you all so much for being in satsang today. Sadguru Shri Muji Ji ki Jai.
Sadguru Shri Ananta-Ji ki Jai.
We have some songs.
She's there.
Both of you.
So we have the songs. She's making me follow. She's like, so difficult.
Sing the same one. Both of you. All of us, in fact.
I just joined in. आयो जी मैंने राम रतन धन पायो पायो जी मैंने राम रतन धन पायो वस्तु अमोलित दी मेरे सतगुरु वस्तु अमोलित दी मेरे सतगुरु कृपा कर अपनायो पायो जी मैंने कृपा कर अपनायो पायो जी मैंने राम रतन धन पायो खर्च न घोटे चोर न लूटे खर्च न घोटे चोर न लूटे दिन दिन बढ़त सवायो पायो जी मैंने दिन दिन बढ़त सवायो पायो जी मैंने राम रतन धन पायो जन्म जन्म की पूंजी पाई जन्म जन्म की पूंजी पाई जग में सभी खोआयो पायो जी मैंने जग में सभी खोआयो पायो जी मैंने राम रतन धन पायो सत की नाव ये बटिया सतगुरु सत की नाव ये बटिया सतगुरु भव सागर तर आयो पायो जी मैंने भव सागर तर आयो पायो जी मैंने राम रतन धन पायो पायो जी मैंने राम रतन धन पायो मीरा के प्रभु गिरधर नागर मीरा के प्रभु गिरधर नागर हरग हरग हंस गायो पायो जी मैंने हरग हरग हंस गायो पायो जी मैंने राम रतन धन पायो पायो जी मैंने राम रतन धन पायो
The two of you. Remind me never to sing again.
So much fun. So much fun.
What were you saying? You know no other bhajan? Sing any. All bhajans are our bhajan. I'd love to hear it.
Very beautiful. The words are really something beautiful to this podcast. Actually, as a here in Rishikesh, he loves it so much. You sing also, I remember. It's very important. Yeah. Very beautiful. What's it called? Yugana, Yugana. युगाना युगान हम योगी हाँ योगी 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 युगाना युगान हम योगी अवधूता युगाना युगान हम योगी हाँ योगी आवे ना जाए मिटे ना कबहू सबद अनाहत भोगी अवधूता युगाना युगान हम योगी हाँ योगी सब ढोर जमात हमारी जमात हमारी सब डोर ही पर मिला मिला हाँ मिला हम सब माय सब है हम माय हम है बहुरी अकेला अवधूता युगाना युगान हम योगी हाँ योगी हाँ योगी योगी युगाना युगान हम योगी हाँ योगी हम ही सीध समाधि हम है समाधि हम है हम मौनी हम बोले हाँ बोले रूप स्वरूप अरूप दिखा के हम ही में हम तो खिले अवधूता युगाना युगान हम योगी हाँ योगी 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 युगाना युगान हम योगी हाँ योगी आहे कबीरा सुनो भाई साधो सुनो भाई साधो नाही में कोई इच्छा इच्छा हाँ इच्छा अपनी मढ़ी में आप में डोलूं खेलूं सहज स्वेच्छा अवधूता युगाना युगान हम योगी हाँ योगी 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 युगाना युगान हम योगी हाँ योगी
Sadhguru Shri Muji Ji ki Jai. Tomorrow we meet in the evening time here, 4 p.m. 4:30.
He wouldn't have come at 4 even though he said.
Many times 4 is okay. When I say like that, it's okay. But many times by mistake, I tell people 11:30 instead of 11 in the morning.
Actually, 11. Somebody said 11:30 in the chat.
Yeah,
No?
but
Yeah.
I also do that.